All right. What up, though? It's your boy, comedian Detroit Red, and I am sitting here with Mayor Mo Owens, the mayor of Eastpointe, the first black mayor to be voted into Eastpointe, as well as she was at one point the first city councilwoman to be voted in, as well as the first black mayor in the Macomb County area. So how you doing today, Mo?
I'm good, thank you.
Good to see you.
Good to see you too.
A lot of people don't know we know each other from back in the day. I didn't mention it, but you also used to do a little bit of comedy too.
That's right.
Now, let's ask you this: how did you even get started in the comedy?
You know what? I was a sheriff and for 11 years, and I, working a job like that, seeing people go through so much. I said, I want to do something that uplifts people. And I said, what do I love to do and how can I do that? And it was comedy. So, so it started there seeing, how can I, again, uplift people, seeing people behind bars can see their family. I want to do something other than enforce the law, but I want to make people laugh and see how and brighten their life. And then that's when comedy came about.
I remember when you started too, you actually did a couple shows in your Wayne County Sheriff's uniform, right?
Yeah, so I mean, I love the job and I love practicing my comedy with the inmates, making them laugh, making them smile. Even when they got out of jail, they always knew my name. I didn't remember them, but they always said thank you for, uplifting and not judging us. So, comedy has allowed me to be a better speaker, to connect with people, and allowed me to get here where I'm at today.
Okay, and so in the course of doing the comedy and uplifting, already serving the public and going there, when did you decide that you was gonna run for the city council position in Eastpointe?
You know what? I got my car stolen in Eastpointe, and back in the day, how we knew Eastpointe, it was like the Mayberry City. People walking their dogs. It was, always just perfect. So that's why I moved here, because it's a family town. It still is. But then I seen some things that, started to change. And when I got my car stolen, it really affected me, my family, because I'm used to being a police officer, now I'm a victim. Right. And so those roles had changed. And then so I understood how being a victim was, and I didn't want nobody else to be a victim. So I said, how can I do that? How can I change the laws or make them harder? And then later on, I seen an ad saying how to be a council person. And I was like, what's that? Because in my community, we didn't talk about that. Growing up in the East Side and in my neighborhood, we didn't talk about council, mayor, senators, and stuff like that. We didn't even push voting. That wasn't something that we talked about. And so when I saw it in the newspaper, I was like, let me see what this is about. Let me look it up and let me research it. And then here I am today.
So Tim, describe how I felt to be the first black elected, because that's important. A lot of people don't understand the importance. Yeah. Eastpointe, which was formerly known as East Detroit, right, was predominantly a white suburban community that broke off from Detroit. Right. So how did it feel to break that barrier as the first black city councilman?
It made me excited, but it changed my mindset and how I think. And to be a representative of so many people, not just African Americans, but people who won't change, is a huge weight to carry. And it keeps you humble, because, you think one part is for you and they end up being against you. And this group of people is against you and they end up being for you. So it teaches you humility and to care about people and see people individually, not by race, not by classification or anything like that, but see people as people. So it helped me to humble myself, to look at life differently, and and it takes a weight on you when you're taking that position. So it just kept me humble, kept me focused, because again, people are looking at me when you're the first. People are looking at you to walk right and be straight, and they forget you're human, and things like that. So it's a lot of weight that was put on me, and so I'm just trying to do the best that I can while I have this seat, and create this legacy, not just for my kids, but for your kids too, and do it the right way, the best that I can, with God's help.
So you did city council. You was on there for 2 years. Mm-hmm. I see that wasn't enough. I see you said, hey, you know what? I'm liking what I'm doing here, but I think I can do more here. So what brought that on? Did somebody come encourage you, or what made you say, you know what, I'm going to go ahead and be the first black mayor of Eastpointe?
Well, I didn't think like that. I was sitting with a friend of mine, and he was like, you're going to be the mayor of Eastpointe, right? I was like, no, I'm not. I'm just learning my job. And then, and then I had to sit back and understand that, you know, knowing who I am, I never want to stop learning. And so it stuck in my head that that's what I want to be. But then at the same time, I started supporting other people that ran. And then I saw their intentions and their agendas, and they didn't match, you know, the goal and the things that I want to see in the future at Eastpointe. So in order, I mean, to stop trying to complain, I said, let me do something about it. And then sometimes you always talk about who should run and who is this, but no one steps up. So instead of complaining about who's running, I said, well, let me run. And, you know, and then I've seen a lot of things that, you know, should have been in place as far as making sure that I had a better chance or a fair chance for anybody that ran. I didn't see those stepping stones created. And so I said, you know what, the reason why a lot of people don't know to vote, African Americans don't know to vote, because sometimes they don't see that they have representation. So I want to change the game a little bit.
Somebody that looks like them.
Yeah, and you know, the history of Eastpointe, you know, and letting people know that's the history of Eastpointe. This is the present. But in order for you to change the present, you got to be a part of it. And so, but people sometimes have to see you stepping forward and not being scared. And some, you know, so I'm from the east side of Detroit. I ain't never scared. So, you know,
that's right.
So, yeah, so people have to see you leadership and not being scared. And then when people see leadership, they stand behind you. And that's exactly what they did in 2019. You know, all races did that. So.
Okay. What in the spirit of old K. Everett, I'm straight from the east side. I ain't scared.
I ain't never scared.
So getting to that, and you spoke on the history of Eastpointe. A lot of people don't know, and I mentioned it, but Eastpointe was predominantly a white suburb that broke off from Detroit. In the last few years, statistics show now it's 40% black, 60% white, so it's starting to be a city of turn and change with an mingled culture and ethnicities. In that, do you feel that any of that has played in the part of any of the things you needed to get from Macomb County or the state?
I think when you are the only person of color and you're trying to fight for something, you know, it is a lot challenging because you have nobody that you feel that you can connect with. Because, you know, in this game of politics, everybody has friends and cliques and things like that. Then you got Monique Owens, who came out of nowhere from Detroit, Wayne County, and come into a suburban area, Macomb County, and nobody knows this woman. Nobody knows her agenda. She wasn't a part of the agenda. They don't know where you're coming from. And so, and then I don't look like nobody. So, and so sometimes you get a disconnect when, you know, everybody's from different, you know, places and people don't know where you're coming from. So it is a challenge, you know, at times, you know, being African American, trying to connect with people who don't understand me or sometimes don't look like me or don't have the same experiences as me and doesn't understand where I'm coming from and what I'm trying to do. So I've had you know, barriers and things like that. But then I have a lot of people in Macomb County that said, we're going to help you break down those barriers. And they have done that. But it's going to slowly take time.
With all great progress takes a little time.
Of course.
So that question brings me to the next question. We kind of got a little wind that you've been asking for vaccinations from the state as well as the county. You guys haven't been able to get what you need. What do you think is the reason behind that, especially considering you're a Democratic, female, you broke barriers in 2 different areas in here, so people in the state know you. What do you think is contributing to this delay or problem with you getting the vaccinations that you need right now for the city?
Well, lack of communication was one thing. Again, when Eastpointe was found the #1 hotspot last year during COVID, when vaccinations came, I thought they would be running to Eastpointe. And they wasn't, and that became a problem for me because Eastpointe, I feel the data and seeing that the demographics, we have more African Americans here than any other city in Macomb County, and so I feel like since the data also shows that African Americans tend to get COVID more and, you know, more likely than any other race, and it's killing our race more than any other. It should have been placed here more, you know, not just for African Americans, but everybody, but you always go to where, you know, it starts. The source, so it doesn't spread. And that didn't happen. And so, you know, trying to work with the legislators and, you know, politicians, it was kind of hard for me and challenging for me to, again, see the things that I saw. And I don't know if that's because I'm African American or that was the least of their, you know, importance. I don't know. But what I do know is it was hard for me to and challenging for me to get certain things done during that time. And so I ended up reaching out to the governor's office, and they came out and did a couple things. They started last week, actually Saturday, and they got a vaccination spot. It just so happened to be in the wrong location outside of Eastpointe,
Okay.
but there was just again miscommunication, and so now
get it right, Rick Moore.
So again, they're working right now to get us 2 locations right here in Eastpointe. I talked to the governor's office. The thing about lack of communication is, there's levels to getting to the governor, and she has a whole state to deal with,
Right.
and so she don't know what everything is happening in each part of every city and every county. And so you always want to go to the level of government before you go to the governor, and that's what I did, and I didn't hear anything. Okay. But when she heard what I said, she immediately, did what she had to do, and I appreciate that. So, again, I think it's the lack of communication, but I feel like as mayors, as elected officials in each city, that it shouldn't be a lack of communication.
Right.
Because people are dying, the increase is rising, and people need to find out the demographics of each city and find out who needs it the most and how to get it there. So I don't have to go on, interviews or go on TV. Right. Or find sources when the source should be finding us, and that's not what happened.
So do you think, like you just said, Eastpointe has the majority number of black residents in Macomb County? Do you believe, I hate to say it like this, but after providing the data that sufficiently showed you guys were the first major hotspot and what's going on, do you think this inaction or delay or lack of communication through the mayor's staff, through the governor's staff, have anything to do with, hey, brothers and sisters will be all right? Or do you think it had anything to do with financial? What do you think caused the lack of communication from inside the governor's chain of command, especially when you guys have done your part in providing the data?
Right. I can't tell you what the lack of communication on her part or, of her team. All I know is what my team has done, and what I've done as a mayor, and that's to reach out. But at the same time, I feel like, again, the levels of government, should reach out and say what city needs what. And so if I reach out to my state rep, or which she has done a great job too, they should go to Congress, the congressman or the senator, and all the way up to those levels and say, okay, this is what this person needs, because I'm local, I'm local government. And then we have, again, we have levels to this.
Right.
And so at each level, their job is to foresee and oversee each city that they are, elected to cover. And they need to find the needs of each city. And when they find those needs, they should direct it to, to the governor or whatever the next level and up to her, because again, she has a whole state to cover, and she doesn't know what every city needs unless that information is passed on to her. And I think the lack of communication happened, somewhere. I can't tell you where, but it's unfortunate that people have to suffer or get sick because of lack of communication when they're depending upon their elected officials to find out the problem. And we're not perfect either.
Right.
So I'm not saying that she should know every local spot or anything like that or anybody else. But, people elected us to do the very best that we can. And that's exactly what I'm doing. And I feel like, she has, once she found out I had a problem, they were on it that same day. I don't know where the lack of communication came from, but, we're here now and we're getting the vaccines done. So.
Okay. Now, do you think Macomb County itself, because that's who would be next in line for you,
right,
as you through the chain, do you think they were as supportive as they could have been throughout your pursuing of getting enough vaccinations for Eastpointe, and they had the same data that, of course, you provided to the state?
Right. I think with the county, again, I don't know, lack of communication, but I had talks with the executive, Mark Hackle, several times, and he did work to put, vaccinations that was in the neighboring communities. But my job is to worry about what's in my city.
Right.
That's my job. People didn't elect me to do everything in other communities, and that's fine. But at the same time, when I'm working closely with people, those people depend on me to work in their city. And so it was hard for me to, do those things that I wanted to do in East Point because everybody was worrying about every other city that surrounded East Point and not East Point. And so that's just how I feel. But again, we have numerous amount of vaccination spots. It's just a problem of, again, lack of communication, businesses not connecting with the city, and government not, connecting with the city. And so if we don't know where these vaccinations are, the residents don't know either. Because it was a councilwoman that had to go all the way to Detroit to get a vaccination. In several council meetings, she said, if you need a vaccination, go to Detroit. Now, why are we saying go to Detroit when we're a city of our own?
Right.
Even when when the governor put together that vaccination spot on Saturday, which it ended up being in Warren, I had 3 elderly people get out the car, and they said we were glad that it was close to East Point, And so, I felt a little bit embarrassed because I'm your mayor and it's not in East Point. Right. But I still want to let them know that this is what I've been working on. This is what I'm getting close to, and I'll make sure that we have, steady locations in East Point.
So speaking on that, what is your progress looking like now? Mm-hmm. I know you mentioned they did come down to put one, I guess, a couple blocks outside the city. Right. But once we get their GPS fixed, right? What do you see the upcoming vaccination plan being? How many locations may you have, or how soon do you think East Point residents will be able to go right in their city and get the vaccination?
We're working on 2 locations. One is going to be 2 church locations, one New Bride, and also one that Love Life, where it's over with Pastor Lancaster, I believe. Pastor Lancaster is over Love Life, and then we have Pastor Gaylor over New Bride. So those are prime locations, and that's where, it's accessible. People know where those locations are. They're not hidden, and, and we can let people know where they are, if need be, if they need transportation, we can help them get there. So I just want a location where it's consistent. They didn't tell us how many dosages right now, so we're still working on the locations and things like that. And before you have a location, you have to make sure about the fire and make sure parking is accessible and things like that. But we also are working to have something at the city hall with a mobile company right now. And so it's a lot of things that we're working on to make sure that we're not the number 1 hotspot again. Right. And so and that's my prime, concern right now, is making sure that we have health and safety and the things that, that is the quality of life. So that's my job.
Now, we here on No BS News Hour. Like to keep it no BS.
Okay, do I gotta sit back now?
No, you gotta sit back now. Okay. And I know you're a woman of faith, so I'm not gonna ask you to get down in the dirt like we do. Okay. But if you wanted to convey any messages to the county or to the state right now as the mayor of East Point, what would you tell Mr. Hackle and Mrs. Whitmore about the vaccinations and any future assistance and things that you feel East Point should be getting just as much attention as anybody else?
Well, I would tell the county, I would tell, the governor's office, I would tell everybody that's now paying attention to East Point that we matter. We actually matter. We are a small city, but we have a big heart. And we have a lot of people that have been residents here. We have a lot of people that come outside that come outside of Detroit and do business here. It's a lot of people that move from Detroit that live here, and there's a lot of people that use our facilities and use our resources here that is just in Detroit. So that's why I said, we matter. We are the gateway to Macomb, and we're, also Wayne County. So when people come in, they're coming into Macomb, and when they leave out, they're going into Wayne County. And so we are the connector. And again, just let them know we matter. And so don't forget about East Point.
And that's what's up. And a lot of people don't know, East Point is one of the many, many small cities that matter in this nation of ours that's going through the exact same thing. Would you agree with that?
I agree. And I think a lot of people forget about smaller cities. I just went to New York and went to to visit Mount Vernon. Okay. A young lady who's the first woman mayor who was elected out there. And actually, she has a smaller city than East Point and had probably almost triple the residents.
Wow.
And and so we were just talking about how to combat the vaccine, how to, and it's probably predominantly African Americans as well. And so, we're just talking about not only fighting the vaccinations, but, creating jobs and resources, things like that. And how sometimes, that can be challenging, because sometimes when you're doing that, people just think you're trying to just help African Americans. But it's not about that. It's about helping the community. And the community looks like, it's called white, Black, Chaldean, Asian. That's a community to me.
I'm two of the first ones,
And so, I just happen to be African American, that just the overseer of Eastpointe. But anytime I talk or I speak, it's about togetherness, and so I just want to let people know that I'm not an African American mayor, just all about Black people. I'm an African American that's for the people, and so I just want people to get to know me and know that my hard work is about the people, and I'm gonna continue to do that.
That's what's up. Well, look here. I know we probably ain't gonna see you on the stage in a minute. You got a lot to do. You running the city, thinking about government. Politics later, state politics.
I'm gonna see what level. Governor Whitmer does. I might have to be the governor. I don't know.
Whitmore, you heard that?
They haven't had a first Black governor. They had a lieutenant, but not a governor.
I know that's right. And I'm gonna be honest. I think you can give them a good run for their money. Hey, well, I thank you for sitting down with me and talking to me today. I am glad to hear that, they are starting to make a move and finally got some attention over here. Mm-hmm. And I hope to see you do, and I know I'm going to see you do great and big things from here on out. And I really appreciate your time with us today.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Hey, look here, this your boy, comedian Detroit Red again with Eastpointe's mayor, first African-American mayor, Miss Mo Owens, breaking barriers and setting forth to do great things for a small city with a big heart. You know how I do it. Deuces. Oh, man. Let's see here. Oh, damn.
You didn't record anything.
I didn't record none of that. That was a great interview. No, I'm just playing. I had to get you.